Spoilers ahead for Babylon 2022, a tale of outsized ambition and outrageous excess. It traces the rise and fall of multiple characters during an era of unbridled decadence and depravity in early Hollywood.
The blindness with which I went into this movie is the way I like to go into movies, where I know just the name and nothing else. Because that makes a lot of movies a lot better, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Because the number of times that even just reading the little text when you look at the movie on the list in Regal, or even just looking at the poster, sometimes, like, if someone on the trailer, not on the trailer, if someone on the poster doesn't show up for the first 20 minutes of the movie, you get an idea of who you're dealing with. Oh, wow, we meet Tobey Maguire's character in a dungeon. I wonder if he's a good guy. Unless he's chained to a wall in there, this guy's going to be a creepy piece of shit.
Yep.
And seeing as how his best friend hawks loogies nonstop.
Oh, what was with that?
Oh, my God. They were trying to go for like a horror movie theme in there, but it was too deep in the movie for that. They didn't build it up enough, which is a weird thing to say in a 3-hour movie. Like, I've been here for 17 days, and they want me to get scared all at once. My legs are numb.
Oh, we didn't mention, this movie is starring... Hold on. What's the guy's name? Because it's not starring Margot Robbie or Brad Pitt. It's starring Diego Calva and nobody else. This movie takes place over 9 years, both in reality and in the movie.
Yeah, but they make up for it by just doing a shit job with aging.
The entire prologue is a house party at this fancy establishment that turns into an orgy, blackjack, or is it roulette? It's essentially a casino.
Who the fuck plays poker while there's an orgy happening? Like, those guys deciding whether or not to, these guys are sitting there like, oh man, should I hit on the 16? The dealer's showing a 10. But you could smell someone's asshole right now as it's being, being pumped. Okay.
Don't hit on 16.
Well, in this movie, I think this is 1926. She's a little old for that place. My first note was, how do they find this many fat people in 1926? Like, do yourself a favor, go and Google like world's fattest man 1910. He looks like he works. He looks like a construction worker today.
Yeah, he's like $190.
Obviously they made that whole change because if you teleported 1926 people to 2022, they would all be accused of anorexia.
Yeah. Limitations
of casting aside, I never ever felt like it was a 19 anything movie. I felt like this could have been a Hollywood 2000. It could have been a Hollywood 2005 movie, as far as I know. You're telling me that party doesn't happen in Hollywood? I don't believe you.
Oh yeah.
I don't believe you. I don't believe it in the last 30 years. There's never been an orgy with an elephant with like a bunch of famous people in it.
Yeah, except there are a lot more children at the parties in Hollywood today. Margot Robbie's character, she's doing whatever it takes to get into Hollywood. Also, the butler, one of the waiters, is doing whatever it takes, I guess, to get into Hollywood, which just means picking up after Brad Pitt's clothing.
I mean, he's not... Okay, so he is a superhero in that, like, every time he goes to do something, it works.
Yeah.
Like, when this guy just needs to beat traffic, there's an ambulance with the keys in it next to... This guy is the Forrest Gump of Hollywood in that, like, he stumbles dick first into massive success. Yep. But he also gets the credit for it. Like he becomes an executive producer starting off being the Mexican.
And his in is that his boss after the party tells him to take Brad Pitt home. And Brad Pitt sees him picking up his shorts after he throws them on the floor. He's like, hey, you want to go to Hollywood? You want to come with me to set? Sure.
Do you think that like every person who has ever driven a drunk Brad Pitt home has like passed up the opportunity to be a Hollywood executive? Like every 1926 taxi driver was like, no, I got to work tomorrow. Fuck off, Mr. Famous actor.
One thing I did really enjoy in the first hour of this movie, as soon as Brad Pitt goes to work for the first time, we see what Hollywood looks like. And based on what I've read about this movie is that they've done a lot of research, right? this is what's alleged. I don't know how true it is, but since there was no sound, they had all these different movies being filmed like 10 feet apart.
Oh,
Which
yeah.
was really cool. Like you're walking through this kind of like a desertish area, and there's just all these little mini stages, and they're all filming right next to each other.
The scene where like they invent the talkies
Mhm.
and like everyone's losing their shit because they never used the microphone before. That makes 100% sense to me.
Oh yeah, because
Because
it's in the transition period between silent and sound.
yeah, it's pretty funny. Like things that we take for granted, they just when you think about them in context, it's like it's hard if you know how to do something correctly. It's hard to think about how to do it incorrectly, which is why it's so painful to listen to like read something you wrote 10 years ago. You're like, oh my god, look at this fucking idiot writing.
Yep.
Or like what the best example I could think is they have ancient paintings of someone trying to ride a horse while sitting like way too far back. So like his legs are like by the back legs of the horse, and he's trying to ride it like that. And it's on a painting. It's on a painting, and it's not like sarcastic. This is someone who's like, "You're just trying to get on a horse." Like they had this big thing that eats grass, and they managed to get one that was like friendly.
Yep.
And it's like, man, if I could be on top of the thing while I was running fast, I could totally murder all my enemies. The best part of the movie to me was when everyone's losing their shit trying to make the first sound movie that anyone there has worked on. Like all the notes I had before that, I don't care about them. Like I don't care about the elephant, even though it totally could have walked up the hill instead of having a whole scene about that. Why does everyone want to go to that party? I don't think I want to go to that party. They had syphilis back then, and there was definitely a whole bunch of syphilis in there. Like they hadn't invented all the fun stuff today, like herpes and
There's a funny part when Margot Robbie she goes to the same set as Brad Pitt the first day. The guy brings her up like, "Oh, I got a girl for you for the movie," and the director's like, "No tits? What happened to the tits part?" She wanted a girl with a huge rack. We go through a whole scene of where Margot Robbie is acting, and she's doing really well, and we keep shooting that over and over to get the right take. And we see Brad Pitt, who's filming like a medieval war movie,
like a Silent Ben-Hur or something.
But yeah, that's all I have for that bit, because I just thought it was really interesting to see how everything worked when there was no sound. Because when the movie started, I didn't know it was no sound. But until we see the final edit of Margot Robbie's first movie, that's when we first see that there's going to be, or that there's silent pictures.
Yeah, I do wonder about one thing though, like the 1926 movie. Like, where's the 1926 movie where the actress grabs a guy's dick and then flashes the camera twice? Like, I feel like I would have heard about that movie existing. The movie lost me several times. I'm like, I don't think that's how it worked.
Right.
I know that like these are legends and stories, and I think like I'm not saying no one ever flashed the camera, but like it didn't make it in the movie. So
and did you find that the dialogue was relating to the 1920s? I felt like everyone was just talking like they do now.
Did people have different accents back then?
Well, I feel like they used different words and things, and she was talking about her pussy, I feel like. She was saying all sorts of like slang that would be used today. Sound pictures are just starting to come in, and Margot Robbie is doing her first sound picture on a stage. And one thing that I took for granted, and didn't even think about, is that they have this gigantic, it looks like a spotlight, but it's to pick up sound, and she has to literally stand in an exact spot in order for the sound to grab. Yeah. You just think, oh, someone has a recording device and it'll pick up the sound, but no, she has to be directly under this.
Yeah, there's no boomstick. They built rafters for the microphone.
Yeah, and there's a whole thing about, oh, can you move this? Yeah, it'll take about 5 hours. So they keep having to do these takes because there are people coming in and out of the stage area. Margot Robbie is too loud at one time, too quiet at one time. She has to be perfectly on pitch. There's a guy who's in like this little box. Was it like to make sure everything is level? The guy who almost dies because he's sweating to death.
That part doesn't make sense. Like, how is he doing his job if he's dead? He was in there for some reason, but they didn't need him to do anything because he was dead for the whole take, I assume. Like, based on the timing, there's no way. If you're dead from heat stroke, you've been unconscious for a while.
Right, and if that was the case where he just had to set something up, he could go in there, press play, and then come out.
Yeah.
So
I
I
mean,
don't
so
know what he was
that's
doing.
that's it's a plot hole in our 5-hour movie.
Yeah.
3-hour movie. 3 hours is long enough. We don't need to exaggerate how long the movie is.
Yeah.
Or is it 3.5?
309.
You really feel the 09. What's the main character's name?
Manuel something.
Yeah, I mean, his name is all over the movie, but I still forget his name.
Yeah.
He's not in it. He's not in the best part of his own movie. This movie is like 2.5 biopics built to kind of hobble together a world building for a world that existed in like myth and legend, I think. The whole thing is kind of surreal. And like they have like the dungeon with the fucking alligator. And like the whole time I'm going, I don't think this is how it was.
No.
So they're trying to make me connect to these characters who like trying to make me connect to these characters in this world that just feels made up. So like I just could not get immersed in this 3-hour and 9-minute movie. I kept getting pulled out by just things that didn't make sense.
To this next part is the last part that I thoroughly enjoyed. Up until this next part I'm going to talk about, I thought this was a 10 out of 10 movie. Like, and then it takes a steep dive off a short cliff. The snake fight. They're at another party, of course. And Margot Robbie wants to get her dad, who's wasted, to fight a snake. And she rallies most of the people at the party to come with them. And they do like an old school, well, obviously this is old school, but where they circle the cars around.
Yeah.
And they got the headlights on, like two people are going to fight. And it's the dad and the snake. Now, I was so sure the snake was just going to lunch on the dad after he passed out, but
yeah,
the dad's going to fight it and he passes out drunk. So Margot Robbie's like trying to get someone else to do it. She's like, fuck it, I'll do it, you bunch of pussies or whatever. And the snake, there's like a 2-minute scene of the snake bites her on the neck.
And everyone's screams.
Everyone's screaming and running, and she's running around with the snake dangling over her.
They have a scene where one football player jumps into the arms of another football player and then gets carried away running. I'm like, yeah, okay. And like, yeah, but Margot Robbie has the snake attached to her neck for literally like a minute, maybe 2 minutes.
It's long enough, and it's a goddamn rattlesnake too.
The intro we do with the Nick Cage intro we do, this scene is longer than that. And I cut my scream off because I thought it was too long. That was the part of the movie that like kind of made you lose it?
No. I like that part. After this is where it just kind of plummeted. Yeah. I really enjoyed the snake.
For me, they either needed to like keep on ramping up or they needed to stay realistic. But it's like it has these up downs, and I'm just like the third time the movie slows down to a crawl, I'm like, I just don't care anymore.
100%.
Like, how many times am I gonna watch Manny just be hopelessly in love with this chick that literally never looks at him twice for anything other than a favor?
He's like a famous producer now because he was a waiter at an orgy. They're like, kid, you got grit.
He is the man who invents the concept of pointing the cameras at the band. That's what makes him go from being like a guy that helps out to being this guy has the ideas. Because once he does that, like he's on the set of his idea, and then someone comes up and offers him a job, that like changes everything. I did enjoy the "You're Not Better Than Me" scene, although I feel like she could have done that before she covered her face in raspberries. But the whole thing is about her not doing things at the right time. She swings rapidly between like being absolutely brilliant. Yeah, early in the movie, like she's getting kind of pushed out by the person who has connections to the person paying for the film, the woman that's jealous of her. So she cancels the movie by going and getting surgery, and then the movie is reshot starring her because they're like, oh yeah, we need someone else is paying the money, but she's the one making the money. So she kind of takes control of the production. And I guess when she can't play chicken, she has no idea what to do. She tries to be diplomatic, and she tries that for all of 2.5 scenes, which is almost nothing in this movie. And then the movie turns into a series of Manny bailing her character out.
Yeah,
she just walks away for no reason.
Oh yes, she owes $85,000 because she gambled it all away, and she goes up to his house to bail him out, for him to bail her out. And he yells at her in Spanish, which we had a conversation about this on something I was editing, where it's like people talking to each other in different languages. He's screaming at her in Spanish that she can't speak in. I guess we're just supposed to have to go off of the inflection of your tone of voice. It's like, piss off. Brad Pitt, he's still in this movie at this point. He's trying to still get work. He gets laughed at because of his voice acting's not good. He's really struggling to convert to the sound movies, and he's just getting shit roles, and he ends up killing himself.
Well, now there's a whole scene where the tabloid writer says it's not because of his voice acting. It's just that he's been famous for long enough that he's out of style. Yeah, Tobey Maguire plays the cliche like scary mob boss. Mm-hmm. If you've seen one movie with a scary mob boss that comes out of nowhere in the middle, you've seen this movie 20 times. Oh, he's spooky. He's scary. He's on drugs. Let's go on a trip. No, you have to go on a trip. Let's go. This scene has happened a million times.
Yeah.
And boy, do they drag it out.
Oh, yeah. No, you really have to see what's down here. It turns out they go into this like underground area. Then they go further underground past an alligator where a dude on steroids, apparently they had steroids in the 1930s. So he escapes the rape dungeon after killing the spit guy. So they have to escape to Mexico. He wants to bring Margot Robbie with him. I guess he's really stupid around really hot women because
just her. Like he spends his whole life in Hollywood. He's in love with her.
Yeah.
Now fair. I will admit, I think everyone has done something stupid for a woman that has really given every signal that you should not do anything stupid for her.
No, we've never done that.
Okay. But like
everyone listening is thinking of that person and what they've done right now, including me.
If you or someone you know has been affected by being in love with a crazy bitch.
Yep.
I got really mad at Manny. Maybe we're supposed to get mad at Manny. But I just didn't care what happened to Manny after so she shows up needing $85,000 and he's like, spend the night here. No. Do not spend the night there. Do not spend the night there. What you do is you give her enough money for a bus ticket. The fact that he thinks that an actor has access to $85,000 doesn't look at the money, and then goes with a satchel of money. It's like, this is the smart guy. I don't know. You can't give her the money, but I don't know what his plan is, because before he even gets the money, she's being stupid and loud again. She hasn't learned her lesson before he walks into uncertain death.
Yeah, and of course they let him go. You can't kill him. He pisses his pants, but by the time he gets back to the car, she disappeared into the night. There's a newspaper later on at the end of the movie where it says she dies, but the camera shot didn't dwell long enough on the newspaper for me to see it. Did you see how she died, or?
No, I didn't, but I assumed I didn't care.
Yeah. Which is weird because the first hour had me caring deeply about these two characters.
The fourth time they drove into and out of a ditch, I'm just what are you doing here?
He lives happily ever after, and we have to look at him watch a movie, but we're staring at his face instead of whatever it was supposed to be, and it took forever.
And he watched a movie about himself, so we're watching a movie that Hollywood made about Hollywood making movies, while he watches the movie made about him making movies.
Yeah, and this is in hour 3, so I've had about enough at this point.
Yeah, I'm just if I have to, I didn't know, I was starting to believe this movie would never end.
Yeah,
I thought I would just have to wait until I got too hungry to get low blood sugar, and then I would just walk out while the movie was still going. Yeah,
it was getting close to that point.
We're real lucky I didn't go in there a little buzz, because my attention. I usually, because I can enjoy a movie with a couple of drinks in me, but if it's boring, I'm gone.
My verdict, honestly, the first half of the movie, I'd say the first hour, 2 hour and 15 minutes was a 10 out of 10 for me, and then it just completely fell off a cliff. Give it a 7.1.
I would say it started at a 7.
Mhm.
It went up to an 8, and then it slowly took its way down to a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, this was the middle and end of this movie. Like, I enjoyed the first part so much that it stayed at a 7 for me, but the rest of the movie was like a 4.
It didn't do anything that was really unique or interesting to keep me going along with it. And I just kept on, and it was so unrealistic. I thought I'm being pulled out of it. Like, you have to go into the world of the movie, which is why, like, you can say, like, oh, this guy is doing magic. Why do you think this is unrealistic? Because whatever. Like,
oh, IMDb 6,000 plus ratings for a 7.4 out of 10. Opening weekend 3.6 million. Current total of 8.3 million. A production budget. Do you want to take a wild guess at the production budget?
50 million?
110 million. How do you pay Brad Pitt and Margot Robbie to do a movie and then focus on this guy that nobody cares about? Whatever. All right, so we will catch you guys later.